Hello friends, this is Scott, and this is how most of my days start out. Every time I have a new project is got to get the truck ready because I'm going to be getting some raw materials. And this project is a no-cost raspberry bed down at the hobby farm. Well, where am I going to get all these materials? Is from my chickens. They've done the work for me. I always throw most of my, if not all of my yard waste into this pan, and I throw chicken scratch in there, and then the chickens go to town. So there's a lot of good material in here, as you see. It looks a little rough on top, but if you dig down a little bit, it's fairly good compost. It's almost finished, I believe. There's always going to be some big chunks in it if you don't screen it, but not too worried about it. Here, looking up under the coop, you see the amount of material that I have to take down to the hobby farm. So it's going to take me several trips, but again, it's all free materials. Free is in, no cost, but it's not free in labor because I've got to haul all this material out of here. So as you see here, I'm just going to dig it up and throw it in 5-gallon buckets. As I've said in my other videos, in my house in Salt Lake, I've got stairs and I have a terraced yard, and so there's no wheelbarrow working in here. This is just manual labor. I've got to haul all this up through the side of the house, through the garage, and into the truck. So, but you see, it looks like some pretty good stuff here. I'm going to show you in a little while what it looks like, but. Yeah, there's some good material there. And again, this all just looks like soil, but it's just organic matter broken down, and now it's really good compost. So let me grab a hunk of it for you and let me give you a look here. So that's pretty good stuff, and that's just all let the chickens do it. Not turning it myself, just letting them go to town on it. So I'm just filling buckets and get as many in the truck as I can before I have to head down. I don't have a lot of time this trip to get a ton of material, but just need to get enough to do the raspberry beds that I'm going to do down at the hobby farm. And I'll show you where that's going to be when I get down there. But I need quite a bit of material, and we're just going to get as much as I can in here. Probably about a cubic yard, I think, is what I'm going to take down. So again, it's manual labor. It's free material, but it's not free on the body. So as I stroll up the side yard. Here's a look at my chicken crew, and this is the last look if you're going to see of 5 chickens, because I went out of town after this trip, came back, I'm missing one of my Barnavelders. There's no signs of foul play. It's a fat bird, so I don't think it could have flown over the fence, but yeah, it's gone. So another chicken is missing, another mystery to solve. Well, there's a look at the material in the back of the truck. That's how much I'm taking down, and there's still chunks in here, but that's fine. It'll all break down over time. And this is how much I took, minus the last 2 buckets I've got to haul up to the truck. But there's still a lot of material here. Now for the second part of the no-cost raspberry beds is the raspberry plants themselves. In my yard, I've got raspberries that have just kind of sprouted everywhere. The wild birds have eaten the fruit and deposited the seed throughout the yard, as well as the raspberries have just move themselves up underneath, especially under the fruit trees. And it's too shady for them there. They're not going to produce much fruit. So we're going to dig these up. And I don't know how many I'm going to take down, but probably a couple 5-gallon buckets worth I'm going to take. But that's just, again, free material, free plants. If you go to the nursery and buy raspberry plants, they're many dollars each plant. So we're not going to do that. And we're going to just take them from our yard. So that's why it's no cost. As you see, there's pretty good root structure here. My raspberry beds are getting wore out. I need to move these raspberries and fertilize the soil. Again, I'm going to prune the tops off because the root structure's got to be able to support the top structure when you transplant plants. If you leave the long, tall tops, they're just going to die because the roots aren't going to be established enough to keep them alive. So I did keep a little bit of foliage, but I got 2 buckets full, and I don't know how many there are. I'll count them when I plant them. So here we are down at the hobby farm, and this is a couple I planted last year. So the same type of thing. I just grabbed a couple plants, and they look pretty good. And they're nice and green, really, really vibrant green. So I'm not going to move these 2 plants yet. I'll move them next spring, see how many of my other ones live. So we're down here in the back, and there's my load. And again, it wasn't a lot of material. I was in a hurry. But I brought my wheelbarrow and all the tools necessary to put my raspberries on this side of the yard. I've been thinking for a while now what I was going to put in here. And this is a hugelkulture bed, so I first put down sticks, and then I put down lots of grass clippings. Then I put down several loads of screened soil in here. So what this, there's some pretty good organic matter in here, a lot of layers of, especially the grass. which will break down over time. But what it doesn't have is it doesn't have a lot of really rich, organic life in it. So that's what hopefully this chicken yard mix I'm bringing down is going to add to that. And I'm going to continue to add more and more material. So again, it's all manual labor, but this time I got a little room so I can use the wheelbarrow. So I'm just going to scoop the wheelbarrow barrel up with dirt and head on up, and we're going to plant those raspberries. So again, it's good exercise. It's my gym membership, so I enjoy doing this kind of work. First step though is I got to level it out and get this green soil that it's got. This is stuff that I took out of the big pile of dirt, and it's got a few rocks in it, smaller rocks, but that's fine. It helps with drainage, so I'm not worried about those rocks. But just going to rake it out, get it kind of level. I'm not too worried about it because again, I'll be adding layers and layers of stuff on here even after I plant. I'll continue to add organic matter on top. Top dressing, they call it. So it'll all, get that organic life to move the material through the soil. And it is a no-till situation, especially after you've started planting. But I'll be fighting weeds, and so I'll need to get some weed suppressant stuff here, whether it's bark or leaves. I'm thinking I might mulch with leaves. Depends on how many leaves I can come up with. So first step, though, is just dumping the bucket out, and I'm just spreading the raspberries out. I did not count them when I dug them up, so I don't know how many I have, and I don't know if I have enough to do the whole thing. But we're just going to kind of space them, maybe 2, to 3 feet apart. And I'll do a 1 pass down, just spread them out that way and see how many I have. And then if I have extras, I'll thicken it up a little bit. It's not going to hurt anything because, again, raspberries, spread. So nothing too complicated. Again, you see it's these little guys have a little bit of root structure, some better than others, but we'll see. I think most of them will live. We'll see how I do. And if they don't, they don't. I'm doing it this time of the year because down here at the hobby farm, winters are pretty long and they don't, the snow gets off the ground later down here. So I want these plants to get established this fall while the weather is still okay, and then get watered in good with the snow, go dormant, and then come back next year and be in the ground rather than me waiting on the snow to melt before I can plant my plants. And that'll take another season. That'll really slow things down. So I'm doing it now. And again, if they live, they live. If they don't, then I'll just dig up more and bring them down. So again, no cost, but it is cost in labor. So it's always nice. But there's a lot of plants here. I mean, I didn't realize how many I dug up, but I think I dug up almost the perfect amount. So we'll get them all laid out here, and then I'll count them, and we'll see what we have. But this should thicken up really nicely, and it'll create a little privacy, it'll create a little barrier. And I've just got to, again, the weeds got in here pretty good last year, but I've smothered them pretty well. So I'm hoping next year will be less weed pressure. But there we are, all laid, kind of just laid out on top. And I always lay things out on top so I get a spacing and I get a placement before I start digging them in and planting them. So I did count them, and there was 51, I believe. So that's quite a few. So again, 51 plants going to the nursery. If you're buying them, that's a lot of money. That's hundreds of dollars, and I'm not spending any money on this. There's a pretty good root structure on that one, but all I'm doing is I'm taking a shovel full of the chicken compost and just putting it on top where I want to plant the plant. And then as I dig a little hole, mixing up that compost into the soil, and then just plant the plant in it and cover it up and make a little bit of a water ring for it. So when I water it in, it'll hold some water. And this area here is very, very dry. Now, the whole reason for hugelkulture is that the materials down low will break down over time, but it also is good for water retention because once those materials are soaked, they'll release water as time goes by. But this bed is really, really dry. So it's really critical after I plant these plants that I'm going to soak it in really, really good. And then I'm going to do some more things, and I'm going to water it a couple times just to make sure that I get this bed really, really soaked in. Because any dry dirt will wick water away from where I've watered, so I want to make sure that doesn't happen. And so the next, for couple of years, I'm going to be watering this bed a lot just until they get really, really established. But it's all going in really slick and really easy, nothing to it. I didn't know if I, brought enough material down from the chicken yard, so I'm just kind of sparingly using it at this point. And it looks like we're going to have enough, and even have some extra that I can do a little top dressing, I think. So getting down to the last few. And again, it's not a hard process. And again, if I lose a few, that's no big deal. I've got plenty at home that I can bring back down and replant. So So this is a good experiment. But again, always prune the tops down. You can't have too much top growth because until the roots are established, they can't support a lot of life above the soil. So if you leave them too long, they're going to die. That's a pretty sure thing. So again, I'm watering it in just with the hose. And I'm soaking. I spent, I probably stood here for 20, 30 minutes just watering for the first layer. And it's necessary because you got to get all this material wet so it's not wicking water away from your plants. And I don't get down here, like I say, every day. So I've got to make sure that this place stays moist. So this is how much I had left after I planted, and I still have some. So I just filling up 5-gallon buckets. Nothing fancy. They're my favorite tools of choice. I just... I don't know. It seems like I'm always carrying material around with buckets, but just top dressing with this material. And this is very fertile stuff. This has been in the chicken yard, and it's got all the compost, the green stuff in my yard, but it's also got all the chicken manure. So this should be some really rich stuff. And over time, it'll seep into the soil and help feed these plants for many years to come. So there's a look at how much material I had, and I almost had enough to do the whole thing. Getting it top dressed, but not quite. So I've got to bring some more down and do a little bit more. Again, I'm going to be bringing horse manures. I'm going to bring leaves. I'm going to bring more manures or more compost. So it's going to be a never-ending process. I'm not going to put bark down right away because I want that to be the top layer. So we'll worry about that probably next year. But as you see, I'm watering it in again after I put all that compost in because that's really dry stuff too. So last look, and they look a little worse for wear, but they'll perk back up really quick. And we should have a couple weeks of good weather still. So hopefully these plants get established before it's time for them to shut down and go dormant. Most people that plant raspberries do bare root, which is, dormant plants that they plant in the spring. But again, I'm doing it this way because my spring is late here. I can't get into the ground planting, so I want to make sure I do it this year. So this fall, so that next year they're already started and I'm not behind. Well, thanks for watching this video. And if you like what you see, please hit that subscribe button, like, share, and comment, as I'd love to hear from you. Thank you.